supervision, how to supervise people, how to get the best out of people, because not everybody's different. Every employee I ever had something different about them. Some needed a tougher environment to work in. You had to be quite tough with them because they were a little bit indisciplined. Others were quite emotional and needed an arm round the shoulder. So the first thing you had to learn, and Andrew was fantastic at this, Uncle Andrew, was pointing out the differences between those that needed a little bit of a kick sometimes, not literally, and those that needed emotional support. And that is to get the best out of them. Some people just needed a real push. Others needed a little bit of tender care. And I felt I became very good at that relatively quickly. Like everybody, I had my moments when days were not going well and the voice levels would rise. You know, there was no question that was the case, but I had to show that sometimes because there are only two sets of people in my view in life, and those are employers and employees. And I can always tell the difference between the potential employers in my business and those that are just going to be, I say just going to be, it's a vital job, but who are going to be employees for the rest of their life because they're comfortable within that environment. They don't want to push themselves to run or own a company. They just want to work for somebody else. So there's two sets of, there's a balance there between those that can run a company and own a company and those that want to work in that company. And I think it's important to identify that at a fairly early age of their, or early time in their involvement with you. I've had over the 37 years that I was managing director of Bain & Irvine, my company, I don't really think there was many occasions when the voices were raised to a level which was uncomfortable. We always managed to find a way to get through these difficult times. So I thought that was a positive thing for me to learn, very positive thing. And then the next, so once you've sussed how they are, getting the best out of them is a lot easier. Best out of a man, or, well, unfortunately, we didn't have any women working in our slating and tiling industry, apart from administration in the office. It was always a hope that I would be able to employ a woman at one time, because there are a number of women in the industry, slating and tiling in Scotland now, and particularly in Germany, where I got to know many European countries who employ women in the trade, in the craft. And I think that's a fantastic thing. So I always wanted to employ a woman in the industry, but it never quite happened in my career. But getting the best out of somebody is and seeing them progress and getting to a level where they're a craftsman or craftswoman in some cases, where we can see that improvement. It gives me so much pleasure to see somebody coming from a young 16-year-old apprentice to somebody who's a craftsman of note. You mentioned roofers. Roofers is not a term that I like too much, because roofers means roofing. Whereas my craft is slating and tiling. We are slaters and tilers. So it's a craft rather than laying felt or liquid waterproofing or some of the other trades that are less complicated in their makeup. So yeah, lots of positives about running the business at that time, and we just grew and grew and grew from very few staff to a relatively reasonable sized business at the end.
Perfect. And I really liked that you said that you can identify as a business owner that if someone will stay an employee for the rest of their life or they can become an employer, and if how you can bring the best out of people. And I believe that people give you signals that you can use to identify their personality types. And the question I have is, how can you identify those signals if you become good at identifying those indicators? Do you also feel that people have changed over these years, like back in time when Uncle Andrew was teaching you, we did not have these personality types that we have now, and we have many different kinds of people working in the roofing or the slate industry, even women as well. So how can you become good at identifying those signals or those indicators, and how can you keep yourself up to date in terms of seeing that people are constantly changing and evolving?
I think a lot of that comes from the early stages of speaking to employees, because I always think that if you want to be good at anything, you have to be passionate about what you do. Passion is vital. Passion creates enthusiasm. Enthusiasm creates quality of workmanship. So if you have the passion, you'll get the enthusiasm, you will get the creativity that you need in our industry. And then you become very good at it, and then you become recognized for being very good at it. And your peers recognize that you're good at it. And that breeds confidence. And once you have got from the passion to the confidence, which takes a number of years, spotting the early stages of passion is really quite easy, because you can see it in a person. I can see it in a person. I was talking to one of our young apprentices yesterday. I was doing a survey on a massive project that Ben and Irvin are currently working on. And one of the apprentices, Thomas, came up to me. He was at my leaving evening, which the new owners of Ben and Irvin put up for me, John and Gary, who you know. And it was a wonderful evening. And Thomas on the evening came up and said, you know, we're sorry that you're leaving. And he's only 17 years old. Yesterday, he came over to me and says, oh, Graham, nice to see you. And there was just a nice way with him. He had a passion for what he was doing. I was asking him some questions. A 17-year-old had that confidence and just niceness about him. And I can see that boy going far in the industry. He's just a boy at the moment, but he'll become a man fairly quickly, and he'll be good at what he does, because he has that inquisitive passion and enthusiasm for the job. So I just think it's easy to pick them out. It's never that easy when you're interviewing people for a job, because you never quite know at that point what you're going to get. You can gauge what sort of person they are, but you're never going to quite be able to gauge whether they'll be practically good at what they do. That takes time and training and effort on everybody's behalf. But as my father used to say, we can teach somebody to be very good at being a tradesman, but we can never teach them to be a nice person. That comes from within. So when you are employing somebody, make sure they're very personable and nice, and then we can train the rest. We can do the rest, but we can't train them to be personable.